Hello and welcome back. Today we talk about some of the new uniques as well as the changed uniques. First of all, we have Kalandra's Touch Ring, reflects the other ring, and I think the best use case is like if you use Omniscience and you have some stat stacking rings with Chaos Raz or Crit Multi or whatever, and then you use the ring with this. In standard it will be like rings from recombinators with like +2 to power charges and frenzy charges or whatever. Another good use case would be with the Precursors emblem, where you have like +1 to frenzy charges and some other mods that you really want, or with the Herald rings, where you have increased buff effect of your Herald effect and increased fire damage, for example, with Herald of Ash, because these rings can be really expensive, up to a few mirrors. In case of the Precursors, depending on how much this ring costs, can save a lot of mirrors. And for Alberon's Warpath, the important nodes are the additional skeleton gets removed and now your skeletons become permanent. I think this also applies to your skeleton mages, and it's like the race zombies right now, and you cast them once and then they are permanent. Should be huge quality of life. The Bringer of Rain is one of the most buffed uniques in 3.19. All of the level 18 skill gems turn into +30. And that's a 2.16 multiplier if you ignore the blind, because that's just increased duration basically. And it will be huge. Chalice of Horror is also really nice because now you get a 700 damage dot over 8 seconds. And I think you can scale it the same way as you scale your Death's Oath. And that's mainly with clusters and has a really nice passive playstyle, I think. And maybe you can apply the curses for the Chalice of Horrors with your Blasphemy, then you have a purely walking simulator build. And for CLAYSHAPER, the minions deal additional attack physical damage gets removed and it turns into like 10 times more damage, if I'm reading it correctly. Maybe it's just a play on words. And Golemancer seems to be the meta of this season, possibly. And for Death Rush, basically everything gets thrown out and you get an adrenaline buff now. All of you Path of Building Warrior know what it does. It gives you huge damage. Adrenaline grants the following: 100% increased damage, 25% increased attack, cast and movement speed, and 10% additional physical damage reduction. And Death Rush is now the only viable non-champion version to get this buff. Deidbell now has up to 30% chance to don't exert your attacks, which if you have like a skills with 8 exertions, that turns into 2.4 exertions. So on average you get like 2 additional exertions. I don't play too much melee, but I think the Shaper helmet has a thing where you get additional damage per exerted attack, and maybe the further down the chain you are, the higher the damage is. But the other helmet competes with this one on the slot, so it doesn't work. But maybe there are other skills that work with longer exert chains for your slam skills, so that one could be a viable option. Doedre's Scorn is, I think, one of the best uniques in 3.19 if you run with a curse bot that has like 6 or 7 curses, together with the chest that places a totem where you can place up to 6 additional curses that ignore the curse limit. Then you can get 12 or 13 additional curses on an enemy. You get an average of like 50 flat chaos damage per curse on the target. And if you run with a curse bot, he could either run with like reduced a number of curses with increased curse effect with the replica Doedre's ring, or you run just a bot with maximum amount of curses and chaos damage scaling with Despair. And then on the carry of your team, he wears this helmet, and then you get like 12 times 50 flat chaos damage to your attacks and skills and spells. Could be huge. And the third item with flat chaos damage is Dusktoe. Really early on, like level 18, you get up to 50 flat chaos damage during Flask effect, which is really nice, I think. Ezomyte Peak has the cannot evade enemy attacks, and it gets replaced with the Keystone, where you can't evade enemy attacks, but also you can't get stunned. I think early on that's a really good helmet, until you get the Harvest Crafts with 50% reduced chance to get stunned. And early on you can grab a bunch of the Ezomyte Peaks and corrupt them, I think, for easy +1 power charges or whatever you want, and is available. Really nice helmet now. And I think the one possibly most broken item in 3.19 could be Fairgraves Tricorne, because now you can be afflicted or touched by ghosts. I think that's the new goal, where the last few leagues we wanted a bunch of shrine buffs, and now if you run with like Seance or all of the other skills on the Atlas tree with the ghost stuff, which honestly aren't too many. It's like 2 nodes from here and here. I could imagine the being touched by ghost is a permanent buff during the whole map, and I'm not sure if you leave the map and then re-enter if it still applies, or if you die if the touches get removed. Maybe you just want to put in a lot of scarabs and grab the nodes on the Atlas tree and get as much ghost touched as possible. I think you can carry the helmet around, and if you notice the Unrelenting Torment is triggered on the map arena, then you have the immunity phase, and then you swap your helmet, ideally with the sockets and the gems already in it. And then you just run into the boss and grab all of the ghost buffs that he gets as well. And then you just get basically free quantity with a bit more risk, but it negates a bit of the risk because you also get the same buffs as the boss. And I'm really looking forward to Fairgraves Tricorne mechanics that we will figure out and attack of it. And Heatshiver, it has really nice scaling now with the cold damage, and it feels like an additional bone chill on the helmet, but I think we will lose the +2 to cold and +2 to fire gems, so we only have the +4 from the double corruption remaining instead of a +8 now, so I'm not too sure about the Heatshiver now. Lightning Coil will have up to 50% physical damage from hits taken as lightning damage now, which will be huge, way better than the Cloak of Flames. And now Meginord's Vise will have splash damage, which could be huge, like with the all-quality multi-strike, which was used with Arakaali's Spider, where the multi-strike overlapped. Maybe we can use that now with other skills too, and I'm looking forward to the tech we will discover with this. Then Ming's Heart can catalyst it up, so it gets up to like 3 times more damage now compared to the current version, even with catalysts. And a 3.18 was really good with Seismic Trap and the Chaos version of it, but that's dead now, so let's see what we figure out with it. Montregul's Grasp has now that it explodes for 50% of the monster life, and I don't think we can dual wield it for 100% damage. And the Obliteration Wand now has 40% physical damage as extra chaos damage, which is huge. The second unique that has one of the highest possible ceilings is Ralakesh Impatience now, because minimum charges you get for being stationary is now up to your maximum charges. So you don't have to be stationary for like 20 seconds until you get all of your charges. And if you're unlucky, you have to wait even longer. Now you just have to be stationary for 4 seconds and you get up to your maximum charges for everything. And maybe you can still corrupt him up to 1 additional endurance charge or whatever. And now it's back on the menu for bosses. You just wait 4 seconds and then swap to your main boots again with maximum charges on everything. And I think it enables a new playstyle for a stationary discharge build. We just stand around, discharge, move a bit and become stationary again. Wait like 3 seconds then and 4 seconds, then you have all of your charges up. Then you trigger the discharge again. You have a really tanky build and you just stand still and discharge the bosses. Really nice playstyle, I think, just for pinnacle bosses. With the new red cage, you get 100% of the fire damage from hits is taken as physical damage. Maybe you can enable a build where you have 100% of your physical damage is converted to fire damage, then you have 90% chaos rest, then all of the damage gets converted to physical damage. Maybe you can start a weird loop, but I don't think so, that it's fully possible, but to like 80 or 90%. I'm not sure when we want to take all of the fire damage as physical damage instead. Maybe for a really tanky build and for self damage taken. I'm not sure yet. Then we have Rathpith Globe, and we need to figure out the new maximum HP that we need for the maximum crit cap, because now it's, I think, per 50 player life, so you don't need as much life anymore to reach the maximum possible crit chance. And for the Repentance Crusader Gloves, you have now up to 12% increased strength, and we need to compare it with the Synth Gloves, what their maximum value is. I think it goes up to 16 or 80% maybe. So that's really early on version to avoid the expensive synthesis gloves. And the new Sidhebreath converts 50% of your physical damage of your minions into cold damage, and you can deal no non-cold damage, so only cold damage. I thought maybe that's good with the Trial Grip Gloves, because early on it might be difficult to get 4 green sockets on it, even with the jeweler recipe where you go from 2 green sockets to 3 sockets and hope that it hits a green, and then you go to 4 sockets, and if you don't hit the green socket there, you go back to 3 sockets and you move it as long as you need it until you hit 4 of the green sockets for the 100% physical to cold conversion for your minions. But early on that's kind of difficult, I think, until you have enough jewelers So maybe you can keep it at 2 sockets and do the 25 chrome recipe for 2 green sockets and then run with the Sidhebreath and do full coil conversion that way early on. And Thunderfist are now 3.5 times better than before, but you will lose the increased aim and duration. The new Windscream boots will have increased area of effect for your curses, which is really nice. And I think it applies also to your Blasphemy as well as the Jest with the Curse Totem. Then the Wraithlord Bone Circlet will lose the level of minion gems and the Spectre Life, but you get to 2 maximum Spectres, but you aren't allowed to have any other minions. But it looks huge. And Wurm's Molt get like 9 times increased leech speed, which could be gigantic with a reflect build. Like the Pale King, it has, you leeches your reflect damage now, and there's a new shield that has up to 10k reflect, from 1k to 11k, so 5.5k reflect on average, and then you leech 100% of that as life, and then you multiply it times 1000%, so 9 times increased leech rate. So maybe we see a really nice reflect build in this league. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to this video and share with your friends. Bye bye!